Hello. So today in our art making, I thought we should somehow pay homage or find a way of processing the terrible fires that we experienced in Cape Town last Sunday. And to do that, I thought it would be more potent to actually use materials that somehow reflect what happened. So I think it was a moment where fire showed how greedy it was, and in Indian mythology actually Agni is a deity of fire which is devours everything and therefore is one of the few deities that is not enlightened. So we can use that as a metaphor in the back of our minds. So the fire consumed so many things. It consumed the flowers and the trees and the animals, and in a very quick way. It also consumed the archives of knowledge at UCT. But I don't want to kind of list all the losses. I just want to get to show you what I thought should become a ritual. And I think lighting a little candle is always a nice thing to do with art making, because it just confers a special atmosphere. And here's another candle. So we're working with fire, and in many ancient cultures, the smoke of fire was used to burn away bad energy or burn away the old and bring in the new. In the Greek Orthodox tradition, for Easter at the midnight mass, everyone returns home with a candle that has been lit by the one candle in the church, and they sort of inscribe a smoke cross on the lintel of their house before entering, which is a way of, it's a ritual of protection. And even if you're not religious, some of these rituals are very ancient. They've been perhaps appropriated by Christianity, but they are very, very old. There's also the ritual of smudging a space. So I just thought we could do a smoke drawing in the same way. So we're creating our own little lintel with the paper, which is taped so that it doesn't flap around. And then by moving the candle in various directions, you can almost create a smoke drawing. It depends on the kind of movement, the air, the kind of candle you're using. So these marks are very beautiful, but it's good to be mindful of how quickly this can turn into a blaze. So maybe you should have some water nearby. And you can keep on darkening, going backwards and forwards in the same areas. So you get the idea of how this can become quite a lovely, chancy way of making marks, which have movement and randomness. So let me just put that away. So now within that, we can actually take a dry paintbrush and make other drawings. or other marks, and you can remove. It's very delicate, this some people like to use a fixative to fix these drawings, but I think that the fixative deadens them, and might be a nice exercise to embrace the impermanence of everything. Nothing's going to last, and the sooner we kind of get to grips with that idea, the happier we're going to be. So yeah, I think art making can be just a ritual. You don't have to have any special skill or knowledge or whatever. And then you could bring in charcoal, although the charcoal scratches the surface, so it's going to be like quite a difficult. And wherever you touch, you're bringing a whiteness. And I think the trick is to just go with whatever lands on the page, and just see what happens. And if you take away too much, you can always go back to your candle and add further marks on top. So that's the one thing. So that's the fire part, which you may decide you like and you want to use. But if you don't, you can always just use the charcoal as a symbolic object almost. It is a burnt piece of wood that, although it has inherently within it that idea of destruction, it's actually a transformation. And I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to get to, is that from the destructiveness of the fire, there is a possibility of transformation. So that's one thing. And then for the materials, I thought it might be nice to use things that come from nature, and to remember perhaps what the ancients knew is that when they were transacting with the gods, they were making sacrifices, and they sacrificed something that was very precious to them. So you don't sacrifice what you don't need, your excess. You sacrifice your special cow, or, and sometimes it's a burnt offering which you burn to show that you're giving the whole of it. Or you can pour a substance into the earth. So today I thought we could use that idea and just take something that is incredibly beautiful, like a flower, and admire its beauty, and be very conscious of how much life force is actually squeezed into these forms and these colors, and pluck a petal or two and just use it as a pigment. So it's incredible how much color is inside these delicate petals, and what delicate colors they are, which are just so beautiful to use. And we can actually do the same with, there's a marigold with a very red hue, and we can see what that gives. That's a much more purpley red than perhaps this marigold, which is more orange. So think of it as using the life force of the flower to make an artwork, and that is quite transformative. It's sort of there's destruction and creation all in one. Here's a I think it's called a cornflower, which creates a beautiful blue. There's a Eugenia berry, which is got a lot of liquid in it, and it looks very pink. Oh, there was some flower there as well. Anyway, it does look very pink, but when it dries, it's very blue. And there's a yellow flower, can give us this lovely sunshine color. And of course, a leaf or grass will give us all the chlorophyll is, here's a dandelion, maybe this one is a little bit stronger. So this is just to give you an idea of how to use these materials. What else? We have some a tea bag of rooibos, which creates a beautiful skin tone almost. And you could also use a little piece of clay, dry clay that hasn't been baked. This one came off a broken little sculpture, so it's quite nice to use its earthiness to also capture part of that. You know, it's in nature. There's a cycle. There's a life cycle which includes death, and I think today's art making is really about embracing impermanence, transforming something into something else, using natural materials and paying homage to that cycle of life and death. I think you should make your own rituals though.